to the bone.
Yeah!
I
don't feel like playing the thing on the thing. Buenos nachos, amigos. Welcome to the recorded version of Fanny Pack Wrestling Podcast Live, because that's the only people that are going to see these first few seconds. We are here live on the internet together to talk about wrestling. I am PD Rave. Here with me, as always, is my cohort, my compadre, David Jeffrey Majors, a.k.a. DJM. How you doing, DJM?
Burritos Dios, my friend. It is the Fanny Pack Wrestling Podcast once again, and we are continuing with the Awesome Series. The series where we introduce our indie wrestling curious folks to shows that I and PD Rave like to think are a bit above the bar in terms of the level of indie wrestling. And this one, it's my turn. I will go so far as to say I think this might very well be my favorite Ring of Honor show of all time. And there are a lot of them. There are a lot of these shows from the golden age of ROH, but I think this one might be at the top of the list, and it won't be too hard to figure out why. Tell him, Petey.
Yes, this is Ring of Honor's Driven, the first of two pay-per-views that they had annually called Driven. This one came out in 2007, and it was actually on TV. This is Ring of Honor on TV with the tubes. I mean, it was on demand and all, but it was on your TV and stuff. And it was a jam-packed show from top to bottom. You can't ask for much more, and it radiated out of this great city of Chicago. Who do we have to discuss, and who are we foisting this goodness of wrestling upon, DJM?
Well, today on the show, we have a guest that I wanted to have on, because the thing about this particular show, ROH Driven, was that it has a lot of recognizable names from the year 2007 and as we are now in the year 2014. And I wanted to pick at least one guest to sort of introduce them to what Ring of Honor was at the time. And our guest this evening is none other than the man behind Foster on Sports, Mr. Rick Foster. What's going on, Rick?
It's going all right. Holy smokes, that's probably the best intro I've ever received ever. Like
that's all I'm good for. Petey, I'm tagging you in.
Pleasure to be here. It's been a while since I've been on here. I think I botched my first appearance up, but botches are made to happen here in wrestling.
Yes, they are. Of course, I must ask you, Rick, before we get into what happened on the show and get into some of the matches, what were your expectations coming into this event?
I mean, I took a look at some of the matches beforehand, and I guess my expectations minus the Bryan Danielson match, I was kind of like, oh, I don't know, because my relationship with Ring of Honor is very half and half good, half bad. I think the things that I don't like is the thing. I mean, it's just the product. That's how they present themselves. And then I saw Davey Richards on the card, and I really don't like Davey Richards. So, and especially the opening match with Davey Richards. We'll get into it. I just don't like Davey Richards at all, and I don't perceive wrestling as a sport, and that's what ROH does. This pay-per-view, it wasn't as obnoxious as it was to other like Ring of Honor matches that I've watched. But to be fair, this is also the first Ring of Honor match I've watched, or event back to front. I've picked matches, from here and there, the Joe Punk series.
And Rick, I will say, this is exactly why I wanted you on this show.
Okay.
This is exactly why. Because I believe that this is one of those upper echelon Ring of Honor shows. There are a few others that I'd put up there, but I think this is one that if I'm going to tell people about what Ring of Honor was at its absolute best, what Ring of Honor is all about, this is one of those shows that I would show people. And that's exactly why I brought you on this show, because I know your opinion on Ring of Honor is a little so
Exactly.
I wanted to say, here's something that shows why Ring of Honor, for a time, was really the top of the top of the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it really does show in this event. And we'll just get right into it, PD.
Now, let's get right into it. We
Yes.
started off with the crowd at the pay-per-view taping in Chicago, live, hot, as you do. If you've attended any kind of pay-per-view or live taping events, they probably did a countdown, and then when the cameras went live, everybody's going, "Yeah, let's go! We're on TV! We made it! This is the big time! Woo!" And then we're introduced to ROH by the voice of ROH of the time, Mr. Dave Prazak. And he led us into the opening contest, which saw the No Remorse Corps consisting of Roderick Strong, the utterly underrated Rocky Romero, and everybody's favorite wrestler, Davey Richards, taking on Delirious, the Lizard Man himself, and the Resilience, M-Dog 20 Matt Cross, and the long-lost, forgotten Florida legend, Eric Stevens. Petey, let's just jump right in. 6-man tag.
Yeah. There's some context for this match. This one was framed as an impromptu challenge. Delirious went out to the ring and had some very, very strong words for the No Remorse Corps.
Delirious is a great promo, man.
I agree.
Yeah. He had some things to say. He got a point across. He delivered it well. I think
was the crowd behind him or what?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, and then he knows exactly what he needs to say at a moment to really get the crowd rallied behind him. There's no wasted words. He knows exactly what he's going for. He knows how to make his point across.
And he had the crowd right in the palm of his lizard hands.
Mm-hmm.
Rick, I must ask you, what were your thoughts as this match started getting going? What was your reaction? What was your impression?
Well, I thought it was a great opener for a paper. Especially for. Can you shed? Maybe you guys can help me out. Is this their second ever pay-per-view?
This was their second pay-per-view.
Okay.
Their first one was Respect Is Earned at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York.
Okay. So
I nearly picked that one. Almost picked that one.
So just in general, it definitely set the tone for their second pay-per-view. I guess things I want to kind of start off with the commentary team, who I know Kevin Kelly and Nigel McGuinness do it now.
Yeah.
Who are the past voices and what is their affiliation?
That is Dave Prazak and Lenny Leonard.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Dave Prazak and Lenny Leonard.
And I guess they're just hired commentators type thing.
Dave Prazak is, long story short, he's one of the Chicago guys.
Okay.
Punk.
Yeah.
And he's one of them. And he also runs Shimmer. Lenny Leonard,
okay.
Lenny Leonard is based out of Florida. He is, I believe he's as they say, a Gabe Sapolsky guy.
Okay.
So he works for Gabe's companies now, and at the time he was working for ROH.
And at that point, ROH was still under Gabe's hand,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So just to kind of start on the commentary. First off, it was a really good bout. It was a very. It definitely got the hardest match, in my opinion, is to be one, the opener, and two, the buffer before the main event.
I've always said that the opening match of a wrestling show is, in a lot of ways, it's the catalyst. In a lot of ways, it can be the most important match on the card.
Mm-hmm. And I thought it definitely set the tone for the entire night. In general, I really enjoyed it. And I was very dead as soon as the three guys. I mean, what is the official names? The No Remorse Corps ran out, and one of them was Davey Richards. I was like, son of a bitch.
Rocky Romero makes up for it.
Mm-hmm. You know what? I mean, Rocky and Roderick definitely.
And Roderick, too.
Mm-hmm. Davey Richards was not overly obnoxious. Davey Richards. I don't know what it is. It's just Davey Richards being Davey Richards.
Hey, you know what? I'm the same way with Chris Hero. I understand.
Mm-hmm. And I will say, in all fairness, even watching this, I still prefer the Dojo Bros as a combination over this and over American Wolves. I know the American Wolves is the team, that has ran the circuit and is super popular, and of course is the team signed to TNA. But I still prefer the Dojo Bros.
You know what? Davey Richards makes me appreciate the Young Bucks. Their early work. That's how much I do not like Davey Richards. But I mean, I really enjoyed it. I really do love Delirious. I saw Delirious fight. Who did he? I saw him in Chikara. You know, when he was doing when he was with the Batiri type things, and I absolutely love Delirious, and I thought it was a great match for 6
man. I want to ask you, being a Florida guy, did you ever see Eric Stevens?
No. I think the unfortunate thing is, though I am a Florida guy, I am
him and Roderick for a while were like the co-kings of Florida for a while.
I think the unfortunate thing is that I'm a South Florida guy, and Florida is great for wrestling. South Florida, not so much. Like, there's nothing down here.
It's like Florida and then South Florida, and then
there's Florida and South Florida. Plus, we're at the very end of a big peninsula, and for an industry that relies on wheeled transportation that eats up fuel, there's only so much of that peninsula that they'll go down. At least drive down. So that's more of a Central Florida thing. I think that's which is unfortunate because Eric Stevens really impressed, and there's a lot of great talent. Full Impact Pro is within the state limits of me. But
how far are you from going to see a Full Impact Pro show? Just on average.
Too far.
Too far. Oh,
unfortunately, yeah. All right. Unfortunately. I'd love to check one out, but it'd have to be a major one.
All right, well, let's move on to the next one. This match, the second match on the show, is one in particular that I wanted to introduce people to, because it is a match with two names, as it were, in which we saw Claudio Castagnoli, a very strong, athletic wrestler from Switzerland that does a lot of European uppercuts, whose name is with hair at the time.
Yes.
Taking on Matt Sydal, who people also might recognize from being on
Wrestling
TV
Society X.
Yes.
Wrestling Society X is Matt Sydal. That's right.
Yes, exactly.
Of course, it's pretty obvious. If you watch this show, you are seeing essentially Antonio Cesaro versus Evan Bourne, to the uninitiated.
Yes.
But Rick, just you first. Seeing these two guys 7 years ago from where we are now, what'd you think?
I did not know Evan Bourne had these type of matches in him. Let me give you a background of Evan Bourne. The first time I ever saw him was on Wrestling Society X, when they released. He was with Lizzie Valentine.
Can I just say, I loved Wrestling Society X.
Yes.
For
we had an entire Gaiden episode where we talked about how much we loved Wrestling Society X.
Yes, it was very cheesy when you're. I don't know. Wrestling Society X is definitely a hilarious take on wrestling, and it's fun. It really is fun, and that was the first time I was ever exposed to Evan Bourne.
Amazing roster. And I think we've covered that in our episode. An amazing roster if you really look at it from top to bottom. Like some of the guys that you had on there were the indie wrestling guys.
Just to get back, seeing Matt Sydal taking on a young Antonio Cesaro with those fantastic tights that he used to wear back then. Those are fantastic.
Yes.
What'd you think of this?
I really did. I love the match. The I'm not a big counter guy where the match is based off counters and things like that. But I mean the end counter where Claudio rolled through for the pin. Oh my! Oh, that was the thing of beauty. I loved it, and
it was a beaut.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know what it's just I know Claudio because I've seen matches from like Chikara and things like that.
You saw him do the swing.
Yeah, saw him do the swing. I mean, I think. Did he do a UFO? I can't remember if he did a UFO in that match.
I don't think he did the UFO in this match.
I think if he does the UFO once in WWE, I think he's fucking over for life. But I mean, and if there was somebody that he could do it to, he could definitely do it to Matthew Sydal. And I mean, I absolutely love this match. If they would have used him like this in WWE, I think he'd be a little bit. He probably, well, minus the weed stuff, I think he would have been a better made stuff. Yeah, a better made man. And he's gone on the record for saying like he knows that people aren't there to see him, type thing, like in interviews and for WWE. But I mean, I absolutely love this match. I cannot say how much I love this match more.
Rick, This is exactly what I have been saying about Claudio Castagnoli since about this show. Pretty much. I've been saying this about him forever to where it's just I feel like with him there are times where I feel like I'm the only one who sees it. That he is phenomenal, and all I hope is that they don't mess it up with him again.
Yeah, I know. I love Claudio now. I love the Rio American stuff. Even when he was running with Paul Heyman for a bit. I'm not a big you need to put the belt on him to make him type thing. I think he was doing fine. Without Heyman.
And I'm gonna go on a little rant about Claudio for a minute, because I see this happen in almost every promotion he's been in, and it's the biggest mistake. They turn him heel.
They should literally be building around him.
In Ring of Honor, he got turned heel. In Chikara, he got turned heel. In PWG, he got turned heel until everyone started cheering him.
Yes.
And now it's happening in WWE too. They turned him heel again.
Yes.
Because for whatever reason, I don't know why, wrestling promotions seem to think that he's a bad guy and he's not.
He's lovable.
I don't know.
I think there's few people that you build a company around. John Cena is one. Samoa Joe is another. And I think Claudio Castagnoli is the third. Fourth, Brian. And after seeing the Kenta match, I'm sold on building something around him.
We're going to talk about Kenta.
We're going to talk about some
Kenta.
We're going to talk about some Kenta.
Some Kenta.
Yeah, I think literally you could build a company around him. Period.
Yeah.
And it has happened. It has already happened. Moving on to our next match.
Well, I will say a couple of things on the Claudio Castagnoli, Matt Sydal. A couple of my favorite things was the fact that I got to verify that Claudio Castagnoli's nipples were always that distracting. And Larry Sweeney.
I've never noticed this.
Can we go ahead? Sorry, I apologize.
Larry Sweeney. Can we talk about how much we love Larry Sweeney?
Larry Sweeney.
Because I don't
The
know if we
late
talked
great
about it on
Larry
this.
Sweeney.
Can we?
Oh Lord.
I don't know if you guys have talked about Larry Sweeney on this show before. I don't know. I know he's like a manager, and I know. I
Okay,
mean,
so Larry Sweeney was a manager in ROH and a fantastic heel wrestler everywhere else. And he was a
And he
big
was
person.
the ICW, ICWA Texarkana television champion.
And how many times did he hold the title? I think 147
47.
times.
47. Oh, Larry
Uh,
Sweeney.
oh God! And he was the biggest personality. He was the best personality. He was hilarious. He had a laugh that was
Your
infectious.
classic over-the-top pro wrestling personality.
oh yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Just wonderful, 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 wonderful.
Wonderful human being too. But yeah, that's what I wanted to say. How much I loved Larry Sweeney. And,
Yeah.
I was gonna say, tragically,
He's not with us anymore.
he's not.
He's
Yeah,
not with
he's
us
not with us
anymore,
anymore.
unfortunately.
I mean, this is my first I've ever seen of Larry Sweeney, and I have Sarah Del Rey's like master like DVD set, and there's an interview with her, and I think I know she gets really heavy-hearted into Larry Sweeney, and I guess I didn't understand why she did, but I mean they were like, oh, Sarah was in this group with him, and I could see why she was very broken up about what happened. If I remember right, it was about Larry Sweeney, but I mean I understand why people were upset about what happened to him and things like that.
It's always a tragic thing when that kind of thing
Mhm.
happens. But he was a very beloved, very big personality.
He was beloved and extremely talented,
hmm
and he is missed to this day.
I also understand why Eddie Kingston got up from the stretcher and beat up Kevin Steen after Kevin Steen said that was for Larry Sweeney.
Nice.
After seeing that, very impactful manager.
Yes.
Let's
Fantastic
let's get back to the show. And here, Petey, I'm just gonna let you know I am going to fanboy out a little bit.
Yes.
Now we brought up Kenta, and that leads us into Pro Wrestling Noah, of course. And Kenta's longtime rival / tag team partner, and my favorite Japanese wrestler in the world, Naomichi Marufuji, the guy who every other WWE wrestler stole his moves from, other than Kenta, taking on BJ Whitmer. Rick, are you familiar with anything from Naomichi Marufuji?
No, actually, I'm not familiar with him or BJ Whitmer, surprisingly.
Again, he's Kenta's tag team partner. He's kind of 1A in Pro Wrestling Noah. If Kenta was number 1, Marufuji was 1A. Again, if someone wasn't stealing Kenta's moves, they were probably stealing Marufuji's. The Shiranui, the sliced bread number 2. The running drop kick from the outside, that's his. The moonsault slam, the Shiranui Kai, that's his. Else? I'm sure some others that I'm not even thinking of right now. And he was also Kenta's tag team partner when they were like the best tag team in the universe for like a part of the early and mid 2000s. And BJ Whitmer, he is what you would call an ROH original. He's part of a faction now known as the Decade, because he has been a Ring of Honor stalwart since the early days up until today, and he's been in some of those really, really dangerous matches with Jimmy Jacobs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's always been just, in my opinion, just a likable dude.
Mm-hmm.
And this, it most certainly did.
Mm-hmm.
So Rick, what did you think of this contest? What was your impression of Naomichi Marufuji and BJ Whitmer?
Yeah, I might get crucified for this, but I thought kind of forgettable. It's possible because it was sandwiched in between the Claudio match and the Albright squashing. Yeah, I don't know. It was just maybe it's just kind of forgotten. Maybe it was just one of those where it was placed on the card type things, or at the time that I watched it. But I mean, I guess I don't remember anything crazy from any of those guys, or anything great. Which, like I said, I'm ready for the crucifixion. But,
I'll just have to get some more out of the vault. And
yeah,
I
was gonna say
tie you down.
Mm-hmm. I mean everything else, man. I was totally into.
That's cool.
But I mean, this is the one match that is very fuzzy, and if it's fuzzy, then that means something, nothing crazy happened, or nothing popped out to me. Maybe it's their chemistry or anything like that. I'd like to hear you guys' take.
Petey?
Yeah. I think I have something of a similar impression. I mean, BJ Whitmer is a name I know. They had a pretty, if I remember correctly, pretty solid match here. And there was fun things, but nothing really stands out in my memory as a key moment. I think I enjoyed the match, but I think I have a similar impression to Rick Foster, where I don't remember a whole lot about the match. Other than that, I dug it. It was kind of fun, and it was and I generally know BJ Whitmer is a name to always put together good stuff, and being like you said, a likable guy.
Well, I will say, I know you guys, when you heard me fanboy out about Marufuji for a minute there, that I would probably, rage out on you. But I will agree, this was a match that was the third match on the card for a reason. It was meant to be
a cool down.
It was a cool down. And that's
not bad.
Okay. That is okay.
Yeah, cooldown matches, they exist for a reason, and
I will say that I know both of these guys are capable of putting on something really awesome, but in this case, this was a cooldown. This was a buffer, and that's totally cool.
And for the and for the uninitiated, for those that don't know, that's kind of how you construct and how you flow an event. Is you have those ebbs and flows, and you control the audience in that way of giving them those highs and letting them cool down a little bit before kind of ramping it back up and giving those moments. You can't go all out because people get burnt out.
Yeah, kind
of like how ROH used to be.
Yes.
I was gonna say, just draw the biggest example I could think of was when
we can have some of those shows, Petey, where they're just
nonstop
insanity from start to finish. We can do that, Petey. We can do that.
Yeah, the biggest example I can bring up is WrestleMania 29, when it was Triple H against Brock Lesnar, and then CM Punk, Undertaker, and then Rock Cena 2. And by the time Rock Cena 2 started, everybody besides the beginning, everybody was kind of gassed out, and that's
why you have the Divas match right before the main event.
But and that's the thing, is that they cut that match entirely, and they really could have used that match. And this isn't WWE time, but that's the biggest example, is if you watch those two matches and then you're there for the third, and you're just exhausted, and you can't have big match and expect everybody to be the same level that they're at in the beginning. It's impossible.
And generally, with the good indie promotions, especially, they do that well. They do the pacing well, starting off big and then giving you that cool down match in the middle. Speaking of cooling off moment, you mentioned the squash match coming up after this. We had Brent Albright versus, I think it was the top of the class trophy holder at the time of the Ring of Honor Academy, Pelle Primo. what is there much to say about? Well, we can talk about. Give people some context on Brent Albright. Is there much to say about Brent Albright? He's a name
Brent
that's still around.
Brent Albright, not really. He's kind of disappeared off the face of the earth.
Well, didn't he get signed to OVW?
This was actually after he got released.
Okay.
He was in OVW for a little while. He was part of a great rivalry in OVW with that one guy from Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And he got to the main roster. He had about 2 matches, and then he was gone.
I literally just pulled up his Wikipedia thing, and I didn't know he was on SmackDown.
He had a grand total of maybe 2 matches, maybe.
Yeah.
And he went to the Indies after he was let go, and ended up in Ring of Honor. And he did all right for a while, and including a match against Pele Primo, where Pele Primo died.
Yes. Oh, poor Pele Primo.
I think one of the best arts of wrestling is the squash match. I don't know what it is. Like, I just love.
I totally hear you. A good squash match is something to be appreciated, and I think this was a well done squash match because they don't happen often anymore, and I think this was well done.
The last squash matches I've seen are when Ryback was like being pushed to the moon. And
speaking of people WWE blew it with,
oh goodness. Ryback would go out. He would eat people, and then he would leave, and that was so great. And I loved it.
Right.
Eddie Edwards and like Dave Ski, like those are the people he fought, and I love squash matches. It's a very lost art in wrestling. Good. Very good. Pele Primo, he kind of came out. He was like a little cocky, and then just Brent Albright. Yeah, just killed him.
He killed him,
and those are the best ones.
And he shat on his lifestyle, and that was it. And that's all we saw of Pele Primo ever again. I'm sure. I don't know.
And I think we could move on.
Before we move on, I would love to be the guy that gets squashed for 5 figures a year.
I think most wrestling fans would like that once in their lives.
Yes.
Just go out.
Of course.
And then go grab a drink afterwards.
Moving on to the planned main event, quote unquote, where we have then champion Takeshi Morishima, the unstoppable beast that was Takeshi Morishima, taking on the more successful member of the Rave wrestling family, Jimmy Rave,
the crown jewel of the embassy, Jimmy Rave.
Yes, Jimmy Rave approved. One of the things I strive for this podcast is for it to be Jimmy Rave approved. In a championship match, and this was let's be honest, it was another squash match. It was a little more contested.
This is what's known as the extended squash, because just to provide a little bit of backstory. There was a long time where Jimmy Rave was probably the most hated guy in indie wrestling. I mean, you want to talk about a guy who knew how to be a heel. Oh my God. Jimmy Rave, you loved to hate Jimmy Rave. The toilet paper being thrown at him instead of streamers. Die Jimmy Die was the chant for him. Jimmy Rave, he was so good at getting the ROH audience just to utterly despise him. And he ended up with a #1 contender shot against then ROH champion Takeshi Morishima from Pro Wrestling Noah. And he kind of held his own for a little bit, but in the end, nah, son.
He dropped on his head, and that was it. Yeah.
Well, and I was gonna say, you want to know what the best part of this match was? Is that the commentary team did a really great job of making it seem like he had a shot, and then when Morishima kind of hit his back body drop suplex, they're like, oh, they pinned him, and everybody's like, oh, it's done. It's a shock. And from what I mean, when he did the second match, it seemed like the commentators were just like, yeah, he's been like, well, after that match, he said, this is the second person that he's beat under 5 minutes, and I don't know what it was that kind of hit with that, and it makes it seem like, man, this guy's a fucking big deal.
Oh, Morishima is absolutely a big deal. He's
one really mean bastard.
and he has the scariest moonsault in the world.
Which I don't think he did, correct?
No.
Okay.
Not this time. No, not this time. Morishima is an imposing force, and I think we're gonna get a chance to talk about him a little bit more further on, so we can kind of. I mean, we can just mostly say we love Jimmy Rave. Jimmy Rave.
Crown jewel of the embassy.
And you know what? Before we move on, I do want to say, Ring of Honor's kind of transition video packages were really, for 2007, where I'm sure they're trying to be as low budget as possible. They're kind of mini video packages that when they would come down to the ring was a nice touch for somebody who hasn't seen Jimmy Rave. It was kind of nice to see his little, his big move set while he's running down the ring, and it helps a lot to connect with wrestlers. You don't really see that until after the whole thing is done. Because not a lot of people know, Brent Albright, and you just see it like a quick 10-second thing of him, throwing clotheslines and eating people. It's a nice thing to have, and that definitely helped me enjoy that world title match a lot better.
Shall we get into the tag title match?
Yeah, so we're gonna get into the tag title match. I believe this is where we get into the dark main events, because this is where they cut in the main.
They do show this one.
Oh, okay.
But then after this one, we're going to talk about the match.
Oh, okay. They did show this. Okay, so the World Tag Team Championship, you had the Briscoes, Jay and Mark, Briscoes with an E in it, taking on El Generico and Kevin Steen. They have a story.
At the time, they were collectively known as El Generico and Kevin Steen.
There's a lot that we can say as context for this match, isn't it, DJ? And there's a lot to say about both these teams.
There's years of history here. Kevin Steen and El Generico, the ultimate wrestling odd couple. Generico, of course, the generic luchador, who, of course, left wrestling to take care of the orphans in Tijuana. Kevin Steen, man who needs no introduction. And the Briscoe brothers, the 11 billion time ROH Tag Team Champions, the guys that should have been signed Lord knows how many times.
Oh, so you might have more insight on that. I know they were always on the bubble. They were always rumored. They were always going to the tryouts. What
in
happened?
In a nutshell, I guess it's just that's what they say, is that they're ugly.
Okay.
Or they're not
cosmetically pleasing.
You know what? They connect so well.
Honestly,
with
they're
the crowd.
just so good. They're so good.
Yeah, let's not factor in like the wrestling part. Let's just factor in how much they connect with the crowd. From when they walk out, from when they're just on the ring apron, just like pumping the crowd up. I saw them in New York for Jakara's Cybernetico, and my friend was like, "Man, the Briscoes are gonna be here. That's effing nuts." I love the Briscoes. I was just like, what, that you're gonna have some old guys running out.
No.
Yeah, they're like, no. Like, these guys are amazing, and literally, because Cybernetico, they came out with Steen's theme song, and they all came out for ROH, like the ROH guys, and literally, it's just like, it must have been Mark just jumps in, and he's just like flailing his head around, and he at that point he had the beard, and it's just, I'm like, oh my goodness, these guys are insane. The fact that they connect so well. I was rooting for them, and oh my goodness, just
chicken foo.
Man, yeah.
The redneck foo.
The redneck foo.
The sandalwood samurai.
Yep, and if there's a theme song that fits a wrestler so well, it's "Give Me Back My Bullets" by.
That's their song.
Yep, I love it. I love this match. I really do.
And of course there's El Generico and Kevin Steen, who are just, fantastic. They have long history.
What haven't we said about Kevin Steen and El Generico already?
I don't think there really is. Can we said? I mean, I'll say one more thing. And we're talking about ROH. One of the papers I did see, and not too long ago, and I think I watched it fairly close to after it happened, or maybe even live. I don't know. But was the match between them a fight without honor? El Generico, Kevin Steen.
Yes, the fight without honor. Yes,
that was amazing, and I think that was I may have been my first impression, at least of Kevin Steen, and what a way to be introduced to Kevin Steen, which was him trying to behead El Generico, almost quite literally, with a chair, making him bloody and beat up, and that was insane and fantastic, and these guys have been guys that I think. Well, there's not much else we can say. We love these guys.
It was wonderful. It was awesome.
Yeah. Can we go into the double chair spot where they launched? I mean, the Briscoes literally launched Generico into a pile of chairs in the crowd, and then Steen tries to top them by launching one of the Briscoes in the crowd into another pile of chairs. Like, unbelievable. And then
it's like, whee!
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? And the fact that and the Briscoes won, and then they were celebrating, and then Steen is just the badass heel of just hitting people with the ladder, and then he's just telling Generico, like, this is what you need to do. This is this is what I do. That's not what you did. And I thought it played up the tension between them, because at this point they're the odd couple tag team, correct?
They are the odd couple tag team.
Before they're Cenico, and they're best friends and things like that. And I thought that plays up, really well for anything future-wise.
And builds up over time to the fantastic moment where and then where Kevin Steen finally says, like, I hate you, and annihilates him. And then it finally blows up.
I mean, this was over years and years.
I was going to say, this is prior
promotions.
This is prior to the 2-year thing of just ROH exclusive stuff where Kevin turned on Generico, came back and all that stuff. Yeah. I know that's insane that they're planting the seeds like this far ahead. And it's kind of mind-blowing.
Brought the wildest, craziest shirt I've seen. One of them, which was the Kevin Steen shirt, which is the chair propped up with a disembodied head of El Generico propped up on it. Yes. One of those infamous T-shirts that I remember seeing back then, and it was like, okay, yeah, that's his plan. That's his plan.
Before we move on, I have a question on the Code of Honor. Now,
yes.
I do know. I mean, obviously, I'm not completely dumb on the code of honor. I know the code of honor is, before every match, both competitors are supposed to shake hands. Now, some of that, I know you can like mockingly shake the person's hand. Like I know Punk, for a while, he was doing, the foot handshake type thing. In regards to the beginning, I'm gonna throw it back to the beginning. The 6-man tag, it was the call out type match, and there was no handshake. I know there's, I think, another one where there was like no handshake. Is that normal? Is that
Nah, it
does-
kind of comes and goes.
okay?
In the very, very early years of Ring of Honor, it was something they pushed really hard. But as it went on and on and on, it was left kind of ambiguous.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know, the ref and the commentators make a big deal out of it because you see the ref, we're on the video now, but I don't, maybe, like the ref is just like,
Code of Honor.
code of honor.
That's right.
Mhm. And, there's a couple
Yes,
code of
but
honors
like
afterwards.
Like a lot of rules in pro wrestling,
Goes by the wayside,
there's a
Yeah.
gray area.
hmm But there's like no, like, oh, you're fined for not doing the
No.
code of honor.
No.
No. I never bring
That
these
was
things up.
that was my only thing.
Basically, if you don't follow the code of honor, you're probably a heel. That's usually
that's
the-
very
and that's
sad, yeah.
and that was the whole thing with the Ring of Honor or Code of Honor thing. It didn't matter if you're a heel or a good guy or a tweener or or whatever. You still had to abide by it. And
Yeah.
And the first person to not follow the code of honor and not shake hands was the guy that was really kind of the first real heel in ROH that got booed, and that was Christopher Daniels. He was the first one to not shake hands, and back in the day, that got people really pissed.
Yes.
And yeah, that was definitely
That was something
the
else.
boo me side.
Yes. Yeah, that was something else. But moving on, let's go chronologically into the main event dark matches, the kind of the dark main events. You had the Women of Honor in a tag team contest. Mischief and the lovely Daisy Hayes taking on the Minnesota Home Wrecking Crew, made up of Lacey and Rain, accompanied to the ring by Jimmy Jacobs. At this point, Jimmy had finally got his girl, Lacey.
Oh,
After
that
being a whiny
storyline.
Yeah, that whole
That
storyline.
Were you watching ROH at the time for that, PD? Were you watching?
No, but I think I had been tangentially aware. Again, I was.
If
never
you're
in a
ever
position to
curious,
watch her.
if you're ever curious about when wrestling fans first started using cell phone lights instead of lighters, it was
Yeah.
that feud. It was that storyline. When Jimmy Jacobs wrote a song for Lacey, and people started bringing out their phones and going side to side. That's when that started. And
Nice.
Bray Wyatt's been making money off of it ever since.
Yes.
Oh,
So good information for the people at home. I think what we're going to say about the participants, Mischief, of course, being now
Mischief,
Mrs. Michael,
she's so awesome. Mischief.
the Banshee, and also the Miss Smarty Pants because she's a college graduate
And a scientist.
and a scientist. She does it all for the science. And Daisy Hayes, who is a shame she's not around anymore. And I know she's like doing things here and there, but I don't know what she's up to nowadays. But she was always fantastic in Chikara, and she was fantastic here. And she's been around, I guess, everywhere at some point. Taking on the Minnesota Home Wrecking Crew. What kind of context could you give Rick and people at home about this match and these competitors?
Well, you covered Mischief and Daisy Hayes pretty well. The Minnesota Home Wrecking Crew were in Shimmer and ROH at the time because Shimmer and ROH were working together pretty closely for a while.
Mhm.
The Minnesota Home Wrecking Crew were pretty big heels in Shimmer. And Shimmer would occasionally for ROH shows kind of have the Shimmer matches where various people from the Shimmer roster would compete and have storylines in ROH. in Shimmer, and they'd have a little bit of crossover. And this ended up happening on an ROH show where we got to see the Women of Honor, as they were called. And the tag team match happened. I will just say, back in the day, I hated Lacey. I hated Lacey. She was just so horrible. Just, there were a few people that just really got me to just absolutely just hate them. Just hate. And Lacey was one of them. So kudos to Lacey, because she's obviously watching this.
Obviously. But yeah, Rick, what did you think of the Women of Honor tag team match?
I'm not really a women's wrestler guy, but I'm also not one of those people that, shits on it and, says they're only there for the bathroom break or, for the tits and ass type thing. I think Daisy Hayes is one of the best babyface in peril women's wrestlers by far. Just the way, the hot tag that she got into Mischief. It's probably one of the bigger pops for a babyface in peril women's match I've ever seen, which is it's saying something. When you're used to people, the babyface and the best babyface in peril that I've seen, that isn't Trish Stratus or Lita, is Kelly Kelly. That's not a good thing. But I think Daisy Hayes is a fantastic babyface in peril, and I was definitely invested in her getting that tag to Mischief.
And as I've said many times, Mischief is awesome. She's super athletic. She has just the coolest gimmick ever. Yes. And I am a long-time fan of Mischief. She was Shimmer champion for like 2 years, I think.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, I liked what Mischief was doing. I like her gimmick of just screaming when people are coming at her and they're just like, oh, don't want nothing to do with her.
I pretty much describe Mischief as the singer in a black metal band. That's Mischief.
Oh yeah, that's her.
And the power she wields with her voice of getting people to just stop right in their tracks. It's almost like a Cosgrove on Freakazoid, where we would just be able to do, hey, cut it out. And
I would compare her. I used to compare her to Sindel from Mortal Kombat.
Yes, exactly. She could kill a man with that scream. Chooses not to, and I think that's commendable.
And that's very good news for Michael Elgin.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
My only problem is that they, for your pay-per-view, obviously we just went into this. This is their dark match portion of the pay-per-view. I feel like it needed a Sarah Del Rey type thing. Like if you're talking, your pay-per-view, your big, for ROH, they're building like pay-per-view is a big thing. Compared to WWE, who has one every month.
I think Sarah Del Rey was maybe in a feud with somebody in Shimmer over the Shimmer title. Yeah. So she actually might have been Shimmer champion at the time. I'm wondering, was she in Sweet and Sour by this time? Was she?
Yeah.
You know what? Yes,
she was. Because they made comments on the fact that she wasn't around.
She wasn't around because Larry Sweeney got her an endorsement deal, and that is why she was not there.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know what the actual story was or anything like that, but I just feel like if you're doing a pay-per-view and if you're going to show your women's wrestling portion off, I think you need your top lady, and I think it just needed a Sarah Del Rey appearance.
And you know what? And Sarah and the cheerleader Melissas and the Amazing Kongs, they were definitely part of ROH for a while. I guess just by circumstance she wasn't on this show, because I know she definitely was.
Yeah.
me that
Definitely part of Sweet and Sour Incorporated.
yeah, I just want more Sarah Del Rey in my life.
Don't we
Because
all?
she's
Don't
oh
we
my
all?
goodness. We can go into
We'll say we all.
how I almost cried in front of Sarah Del Rey in her second to last Jakar, or well, her last Jakar match, and I was just like the nervous 5-year-old boy of just like, congratulations on getting WWE. They put you on TV. It's not official, whatever. And I'm just like, I don't care. Like, congratulations. Can I?
We're all
It's
that
on
way.
my DVD.
Yes.
We're all that way. I was that way at a Chikara show in Detroit. I was actually wearing my Sarah Del Rey shirt at the time, and I bought one of her best of DVDs. And
Can I put out a hit?
You're so awesome. You're so awesome.
Yeah, can I put out a hit for somebody whoever took my Sarah Del Rey shirt in New Jersey? I will come find you and I will destroy you because she signed it and she's not making those shirts anymore. And I was very upset when it was lost forever. Maybe the machine, the washing machine, ate it or something. I know it was. It eats me up to this day that my Sarah Del Rey shirt is gone. Because one, those shirts are. I'm gonna swear right here, fucking comfortable.
Yes.
So
I have the white one. They are.
I had the orange one, and it so comfortable. Even it was one of my weekly shirts that I would wear constantly. Like you have those shirts that you're just like I've gotta wear this. It's in my repertoire of wearing weekly, and that was one of them, and it is gone forever.
Which is sad.
It's very sad.
And as we mourn the loss of the Sarah Del Rey shirt, we move on to a singles match. A couple of, I think we're going to talk about, we're going to get it deep into a couple of the ROH guys. One that is not as beloved by one of our members here on the show.
I wonder who we could be talking about.
We're talking about a man who loves himself some lariats and was at this point still holding on to the concept of the frosted tips. Nigel McGuinness taking on the head guy of Sweet and Sour Incorporated, the main talent, none other than Chris Hero, of course, accompanied by Bobby Dempsey, Larry Sweeney, Matt Seidel, and Tack Toland. At that point, Matt Seidel had joined Sweet and Sour Incorporated. God bless Bobby Dempsey.
Bobby Dempsey
give a little,
fantastic.
give a little bit of context, and we already know how you feel about Chris Hero, but let us know how you feel about Nigel McGuinness.
Nigel McGuinness. I love Nigel McGuinness so much that I contributed to the Kickstarter for his documentary. Because Nigel McGuinness should have been someone that is on WWE TV right now. Because when you talk about Ring of Honor, you'll talk about Bryan Danielson, Samoa Joe, CM Punk. Nigel McGuinness is right there with them. He's right there. And through some unfortunate circumstances, at the same time Daniel Bryan got signed, that ended up going really well for him, but he ended up retiring. And now he's the commissioner and commentator for Ring of Honor. So it's kind of come full circle for him. But Nigel was absolutely fantastic. And as a fan of Nigel and as a fan of indie wrestling, it still bums me out to this day that the events that occurred did occur, because Nigel should be right there with the Daniel Bryans of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a match that it just reminded me of how good Nigel was.
Yeah. Brick, well, what did you think of the match?
This is one of my first exposures to Nigel, in general, and I really enjoyed it. I know there is a lot of heartbreak for his non-signing in WWE. If I remember right, was it he got signed, the physical happened, and they found out something? Was it his?
It was
Was
his
it his?
biceps. It
Okay.
was biceps, and he didn't get signed because of the physical.
Yeah.
And then he ended up in TNA for a while.
And that was where I kind of turned off that dial, because I mean, in my opinion, as soon as you go to TNA, it's kind of it's your space junk to me.
And unfortunately, Nigel had some really difficult stuff he had to go through during that time, which led to the end of his career. And it really is. In some ways, watching Nigel at his peak in ROH, it's a little hard to watch because you know he could have made it. There's not a doubt in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, for my... Go ahead.
The comparison I will make is Samoa Joe. There's no doubt in anybody's mind he would be a main event caliber talent that could hang with the top guys in the world. Nigel is the same, and I think that he proves it on multiple occasions on this show.
Yeah, and you know what? I think Nigel is one guy. I mean, if you make the comparison to Joe, I think Nigel is one of those people, along with Brian, is more willing to take criticism and more willing to change just a little bit to make the company happy. Because I mean, as much as people think that WWE is the buy, they want to push, throw our guys off the bridge and have the Roman Reigns, be the best type thing. I mean, they know they are a global thing, and
times have changed.
Yeah.
And I think shows like this probably got a lot of attention from people in WWE. This is probably one of those Ring of Honor shows that people like William Regal and people like Jamie Noble, who was in Ring of Honor for a time, saw and was like, oh, okay, these guys in Ring of Honor, they're really doing something. And I think that this is why I look at Ring of Honor and general, and I say, yeah, these guys are good enough to make it. All you need to see what they're willing to do and how good they are, and I think that post Punk and Bryan, I think that shows like this is why I picked this show, to show people that this is what these guys were doing, and it's why they're where they are now.
Well, because essentially, I mean, they essentially rated their roster. I mean, at like 2008, correct? Because that's when Bourne was picked up.
Let's see. Evan Bourne was about 2008, 2009. Brian and Nigel was like 2009. Chris Hero, like 2011. Claudio, the first time was like 2006, 2007. Then something happened, and they had to let him go. But then they brought him back in like 2010, 2011. Matt Seidel, yeah. Kenta, who we're going to get into later. Kevin Steen. El Generico.
El Generico's friend, I think. El
Generico's friend, his friend, Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
But yeah, El Generico was an instrumental guy in getting them a guy. I think he was he was a big influence on getting him signed because he recommended him.
Again, I chose this show with that in mind, to show people, the Fanny Pack audience, Rick, one other person that we wanted on the show, just how many of these guys started on the indies and how awesome they've been for so long.
I mean, yeah. I mean, even they were even looking at the man that I do not like, Davey Richards.
I don't think they were really looking at him that hard.
I think they were looking at Eddie Edwards.
Eddie Edwards, on the other hand, yes.
I think it's the thing that they can't come in a combo package. I think that's why they came. Like I said, not the combo I prefer. I'm a Dojo Bros guy. I like the Eddie Edwards.
I am an Eddie Edwards guy. That's what I'll say.
Yeah, Eddie Edwards guy. But I like him. If you're gonna put him in a team, the combination I prefer is definitely the Dojo Bros. And I think that's just because I love PWG. But yeah, that's an aside.
Yeah, it showed this match. I mean, this whole entire card. It shows like essentially WWE kind of did their own little talent raid of ROH, and I mean, for the most part, it's almost ROH at that point was like their developmental.
Yeah.
There's a reason so many internet wrestling fans love NXT now.
Oh yeah, it's ROH in 2007, 2008.
NXT is pretty much an indie company at this point, and it's wonderful.
Pretty much. And it's fun. But yeah, moving on to a couple of exceptions to what we've been talking about.
But before, let me chime in on the Nigel McGuinness thing. The Nigel McGuinness match I did like, I really did, and then the Chris Hero thing. He showed a lot of stuff that he's very athletic. It's unfortunate is now showing the WWE why it was a good reason to release him, and he is now king of the Twinkies. But
I'm not a fan of Chris Hero, but I don't like how the internet's getting on him right now. I don't like that.
It's hard.
Not a fan of him.
I'm
not a fan of him, but
It's hard to defend Chris Hero. I mean, you look at every other person that's been released. They're like, hey, it's unfortunate that I was released. I'm gonna prove WWE wrong for releasing me. It just seems like Chris Hero is one of those guys just like, yeah, I'm going to show you why I'm going to let me grab something to eat really quick. It shows why that, it was a good reason why they released him. And there should be a fire lit under your ass, and that fire is not there anymore.
I'm okay with moving on to the next.
Moving on to a couple of exceptions to the rate, the talent rate of ROH, but a couple of talents nonetheless. We revisit Takashi Morishima.
One talent they couldn't read, and another that was taken up by the NWA and eventually Ring of Honor, so he wasn't going anywhere. Takeshi Morishima and Scrap Iron Adam Pearce.
Yes, with his fantastic robe and
his half singlet.
Yes, half singlet. Adam Pearce also at this point was knee deep into being called Repo Man at any given notice.
Yeah,
he played it up very nicely. And coming off of, I think we didn't talk about it, but they did air a little vignette with Adam Pearce that really showed his ability to speak. Like he is a smart, very very articulate kind of guy, and he really showed it in that little promo that they showed. And that's also why I think he was up for being a commentator on I think it was the Angels.
Yes, the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, Orange County, California, United States of America, planet Earth.
Yes.
He was going to be their public announcer.
Well, what happened?
Nice.
I guess it was a fan poll, and I guess he didn't win.
Oh, that's a bummer.
And that kind of is.
Yeah, that's a bummer. Maybe we could try to get Joey Ryan.
I actually think TNA brought him in for a while for like a few like
I think so.
Things, and he was on TNA Gut Check too.
Something.
So I mean, he's a guy that people know and recognize. It's just, and of course his fantastic run as NWA World Heavyweight Champion, making the NWA title relevant again. Hello,
yes.
Scrap Iron Adam Pearce.
Taking on Takeshi Morishima, who we've talked about.
Morishima, the man monster from Pro Wrestling Noah, the love child of Kenta Kobashi and Terry Gordy. and this match was something.
This match was something. Rick, what was your impression of this contest and these guys?
I think they made Adam Pearce a really viable challenger compared to the other. I mean, compared to the Jimmy Rave one. I think it's definitely way better than the Jimmy Rave one. But again, it was just another eating of Adam Pearce and Shane
Hagedorn.
Hagedorn?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Shane Hagedorn.
I mean, yeah, they had a competitive match. I mean, it seemed like they did like a couple of the same spots from the earlier championship match, but I mean, I still really enjoyed it. And then they even had the end where they pinned him, and then Shane came in and tried to like do a sneak attack, and then he just ate him too, and they pinned him, and the ref just counts the 3. I mean, there was no scheduled match between them, but he just pinned him, and they kind of WCW 2000 counted that. But I mean, I still enjoyed it. I think more if there's any wrestler that I would look up that isn't named Kenta, it would be Morishima after watching this.
Good choice. He's pretty awesome.
Yeah, he was a personality and a name that I remember knowing about at a certain given time. I saw clips on YouTube and other places of him, destroying people and making people's lives miserable.
And of course, his best stuff is in Noah, of course.
Is he still in Pro Wrestling Noah?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, because in Japan, there's still a lot of money in Japan.
Oh yeah.
So they're fine over there.
Yeah, I was gonna say I didn't know if he jumped to Noah or if he was doing.
He is a Noah guy.
Okay.
This is when Ring of Honor had that pretty tight relationship with Noah.
Mm-hmm.
So they were sending guys there.
Now
pretty regularly.
I know they had that relationship. What made it fall apart? Just kind of a we don't need you type thing anymore.
Actually, I wouldn't even go so far as to say as it really ever fell apart.
They just kind of didn't do things.
It wasn't as tight for a while. Then guys would come, and then nothing bad.
Mm-hmm.
As it
yeah, they just kind of drifted apart.
It was a working relationship where sometimes it would go, sometimes it wouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of those like we don't need we have enough people to where we can build a thing, and we would love to come to Japan type thing, and we'd still work with you.
Ring of Honor did go to Japan.
Mm-hmm. And
Noah has done some shows in the U.S. with some ROH guys, and
that's really cool for indie companies to work together with like that.
Yeah.
I mean, the only other companies I can name off the top of my head that work together is the Wrestling Is companies and Jakara. And
then the Dragon Gate USA, Dragon Gate relationship, which is very interesting.
And Ring of Honor has most recently been with New Japan, which, by the way, this is the part where I tell everyone, if you're not watching New Japan Pro Wrestling, you should be.
Yes.
And
I know I should be, yes.
Yeah, you should be. And it's been awesome. And that's one of the great things about indie wrestling and just wrestling outside of the bubble is that you get to see every once in a while you'll see dream matches happen. You will see matches that you fantasy book on wrestling forums, and then next thing you know, 6 months from now, it's like, oh my god, this is happening.
And yeah, exactly. To bring eyeballs into everybody else's product, I followed somebody named Jason Namiko, and he's like the indie guy for WrestleView.com, and he's always said indie companies should be working together, not feuding against each other. And I think the international relationship with with Noah and Ring of Honor, along with, I love the shit on TNA so much, but they deserve to. But I mean, with New Japan, is that who they're working with now? New Japan Pro Wrestling.
TNA, I don't know if they have a working relationship
Because
with
I
a
know they're
Japanese
doing
promotion.
their pay-per-view in Japan, and
I
I
think they
thought they
just
were.
went to Japan and booked an area,
Mhm.
booked a
They're
venue.
going to be doing a show at Korakuen Hall.
Okay,
Yeah, I
so I
think
mean,
I don't know if they
even
book in conjunction with
even
anybody or they just booked a venue
It's
or whatnot.
kind of with Wrestle One, sort of.
Wrestle One. Okay.
They have a loose working relationship with Wrestle One.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, it's even great that they're working with a company internationally. And then just I fully support, without getting long-winded and boring everybody. I fully
I think
support the companies working together, not against each other.
the fantasy relationship for all of us would be Chikara and DDT. That would be a fantastic relationship.
I
I
think
don't
the
think the
best
world is ready for that.
Yeah.
I think the best
Maybe not.
relationship
We'll have to see.
for Chikara is Cartoon Network Saturday mornings.
Exactly. That would be
That's
fantastic.
my thing.
I mean, unless they invite Eddie Kingston, which would be completely out of place and hilarious.
Then we could put it on Adult Swim.
Yeah.
Yes.
See, already we're already making money for Chikara and Turner.
We really need to turn this podcast into an actual wrestling promotion.
Just the code of fanny packs. Yeah,
Yeah,
everybody has to wear a
Fanny Pack
fanny pack.
Wrestling. Instead of Fanny Pack Wrestling Podcast, it's just Fanny Pack Wrestling. We already have a logo that works for it. Thanks to Chris Ronan. We already have. I think we have a vague idea of what we're doing. We can just have, like I think I opined. We have me and DJ M and myself on creative, Kaz and Drew on commentary, Kaz
Eh,
and Drew Safari.
I don't know
Uh,
how I feel about Kaz and Drew on commentary.
and of course, we have Scott Fletcher doing the ring announcing.
That could
Uh,
work. That could work.
that would be amazing. Hearing him say some names. Hearing Rose of slapping the hose would be an amazing thing. Call back to the previous episode.
We're moving on.
We're moving on to the. I think the main event. We're probably gonna not really mention too much about the kind of the included main event for the main show because we got the guys that we want to talk about in other matches anyways from that match. So we're gonna go to this
We're
match.
going to talk about Brian and Nigel for sure.
Yeah, when we're talking about quite a bit about Nigel, and now we're going to talk about Bryan Danielson right here. Bryan Danielson versus Kenta. How about these guys? What could be said about these guys, DJM, that we haven't already said?
If you're
This-
watching the video, you have my reaction of just mouth
And
open.
this is when I defend and fight for the name of indie wrestling. This match and the match we're about to talk about afterwards are why. I Kenta versus Bryan Danielson. All I can say is that this is why right here. This. I don't even need to explain. I don't even need to say anything.
Yes.
There it is, right there. And I just keep saying to people, it's gonna happen on WWE television, and the whole world's gonna see it, and it's gonna be amazing.
Yes. Rick, what you kind of gave the reaction, but go ahead and extrapolate on your thoughts on Kenta versus Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, holy smokes, man. Kenta hype is real. I mean, just watching the one, I mean, just it's very. For the record, these guys basically put on like a pure wrestling match, and I mean, as much as I love WWE, and a lot of the times they put on like hokey dokey matches. I mean, these matches I absolutely love too, and holy shit, man, Kenta. If Kenta works half that in NXT, like if he just goes half full power, I think he's going to be.
Kenta doesn't go halfway ever.
I mean, if he goes that much in NXT, he's going to be the man. It was very impressive what the stuff they were doing, and I said, and my girlfriend was watching at the time, and she's very familiar with Daniel Bryan, and she was, for the record, she was laughing at the Final Countdown entrance, and it was she enjoyed it. I could definitely see that she enjoyed it a little bit, and
it's so. As someone who has been through that entrance live a couple of times, I can't even describe it to you.
Yeah, it's.
Have I mentioned, Petey? Have I told you that I'm kind of a fan of Bryan Danielson? I'm a fan of his.
I think you mentioned it once or twice, maybe.
Once or twice.
Possibly.
Oh man, I'll tell you what. I think Kenta is, after watching this match, I think they can turn him into the Japanese John Cena, like the Superman. Just for that final sequence of, I mean, Bryan uses go to sleep on him, no sells it, and then Bryan, what did he do after? I think he must have kicked him in the face, and he no sold that, and then Kenta just picks him up and gives him a go to sleep, and he was very Superman-esque, and I think if they should really go that route of just I don't talk, but I'm a Superman at wrestling. I think that would be amazing for
the fighting spirit. Bring the fighting spirit into WWE for once.
I would love to see how a large WWE crowd would react to a fighting spirit moment like that, like
it was
out at one, or like the fighting spirit no sell. I would love to see that reaction.
It's very beautiful. I loved it. I love this match.
As long as it's used right, it's a fantastic moment. Like, and it is a match right there at the end, and really kind of gives you that oh my god moment that what is going on?
And you know what? They do not hold back. I mean, you can tell that they've worked together a lot when they don't hold back with slaps, chops, the deep holds. It really shows the chemistry. I mean, it was unbelievable how comfortable these guys were working.
Oh yeah, and we know that they definitely work together a lot, because at this point we know Bryan Danielson probably has had so many frequent flyer miles heading over to the land of the rising sun at that point. So many matches over there in Japan. Kenta, wrestling many of the guys over there, including Kenta. So they've wrestled a lot, and you can see it in this match. And the pure wrestling at the beginning, the kind of the sizing each other out, the intense strikes, it's just more and more.
Keep going, Petey. Keep going.
Yes,
going.
it's just.
Let me jump in for a second. I love when Daniel Bryan is. Everybody knows the "I have till 5" thing is coming.
Yes.
And
yes.
I mean, it's basically like the Rock chant-along of just like, if you smell, everybody's like, "I have till 5," and he's just like, and he purposely holds back, and then when he does let loose, everybody just goes bananas, and it's unbelievable.
One of my favorite things for a heel that has a thing that everybody is in for, or like in on like that, is when they, as the heel, knowing that will blue ball the audience in those moments. I love when bad guys blue ball the audience in that way, and it's such that emotional manipulation several times on the show.
The American Dragon, Bryan Danielson.
Yes.
Yeah, and of course we had Kenta. I mean, it's a match that you could say a million things about. how awesome it is.
And
But then
won't
we
be
have
done.
another match to go on to.
Yes, and then we have another match to go on to. So I think all we can say is, yeah, yeah.
girly
Yes.
voice.
That's our
Girly
review.
scream. That's
Yes,
all I have
guys.
to say.
And again, I say to everyone, this is what I've been talking about all these years. This right here.
And that's
This match and the match we're going to talk about next.
and you know what?
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that this match could be on TV in 2 years max, hands down. I mean, yeah, they could maybe try and shoehorn it for an NXT thing, but man, in 2 years, this could be a main event Raw. This could be a main event pay-per-view, and it's
Daniel Bryan versus Kenta on a pay-per-view.
Mhm. Do you?
I'd buy that for $9.99. Let me tell you.
Honestly, I mean, okay, be honest, DJ. I mean, did you really? I mean, did you? Did you believe that Kenta
told me
was coming?
if you would have
into-
told me in 2007 that Kenta, Bryan Danielson, Claudio Castagnoli, Matt Sydal, and Chris Hero had all signed WWE contracts, and if you would have told me Bryan Danielson was the most popular guy in the company, my answer would have been, yeah, I believe that. But all the rest, I would have said, you're out of your mind.
I mean, to the point where people, like wrestlers, didn't believe that he was coming. To where, I mean, Punk grabbed his move and said, "Oh yeah, I just got it from Kenta, and this is my thing." And then Bryan had that running knee. It was just like, "Oh yeah, I got it from Kenta," and people are just like,
and they've always said that. Yeah, they didn't lie about it. It was just like, yeah, we got it from Kenta. And now
and to the point where
Kenta's
they
getting
like
signed, and now Kenta's like, oh,
gave
dude,
back my
it's
shit.
Kenta.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even on Twitter going, all right, it's bedtime. Time to go to. Time to go to.
Can't say that.
And
The
we're
hype-
looking forward to
the
Kenta
hype
Danielson
so
in the
real.
future. We're
The
probably
hype
a
is
lot
so
closer to
real.
Kenta Steen is probably like
Yeah.
right on the horizon
Kenta Kevin
on
Steen.
NXT.
Kenta Steen.
Kenta
Zayn.
Sami Zayn.
I think
Even
Sami Zayn.
Kenta and Adrian Neville.
Yes. Sami Zayn, a great young talent who I would love to see face Kenta, just to see what that would be like. I mean, that would be insane.
We
Adrian
could be
Neville.
Kenta and Cesaro. I mean,
Kenta and Cesaro.
We're closer to that than Kenta Bryan. I mean, but I mean, geez, I mean, it's it's unbelievable at like the fantasy booking type scenarios that people are probably have booked millions and millions of times.
And I can tell you, it's crazy. I can't even. Like I said, if you would have told me in 2007 that we would be where we are, I would never believe you. Except for Bryan. Except for Bryan. When it came to Bryan, I had unyielding belief to where I just knew that it's only a matter of time. And I think that our next match, the official main event of this show, showed it once again regarding the American Dragon and Nigel McGuinness.
Yes.
And just as a disclaimer, I'm going to say that for a long time, I would probably say that this was probably my favorite wrestling match ever. It's top 3, top 5, this match.
Yeah, and of course, a couple of guys that we've talked about on at length here. Rick, what did you think of this match that they included in
Bryan Danielson versus Nigel McGuinness? This was the main event of the Driven pay-per-view.
Yeah, and you know what? I really enjoyed this match. I really enjoyed it being at the end, for some reason. I guess it was one of those, like, it shows how much it means to these wrestlers to be Ring of Honor champion when it's not for the Ring of Honor championship belt. It's for the shot to, go for the Ring of Honor belt. And I really enjoyed it. These guys have really great chemistry together. Although if you're Bryan Danielson, you have
It's okay.
chemistry with everybody.
Whichever.
I mean, he has chemistry with everybody. I mean, he put on when I saw him in Philly when he was the world heavyweight champion. He put on a 4-star match with Zack Ryder, of all people, when Zack Ryder was still on the up and up, and I don't. You really can't have a bad match if you're Daniel Bryan, and it really showed that Nigel McGuinness and Bryan have just amazing chemistry together, and especially just the lock that Nigel put on Bryan, where he put the bridge over his arm. That
kind of the Rings of Saturn-esque arm lock where he bridged back and really.
That was
and
very.
the audience was like,
yeah.
Did you guys hear the crowd when that happened?
They're like,
and
then it's just like, it was like a horror scene of when you're at the movie theater of just like, it was it was unbelievable. I really enjoyed that sequence, and
it's also like I said, it's also interesting going back to these events and seeing Frosted Tips Nigel McGuinness and hairless Bryan Danielson. Just bald-headed but clean-shaven, just completely hairless.
And now both of them are the direct opposite. So
whereas Nigel McGuinness has, I think, no hair at this point.
No hair.
And Bryan Danielson, now Daniel Bryan, has much hair, very, very beard, much hair.
Yes.
And it's fantastic. But it's always funny looking back to a young Kevin Steen, a bald Bryan Danielson, Jimmy Rave at any given point.
Kevin Steen, lean. Holy smokes!
Yeah. And we might get, who knows? Maybe we'll get a lean Kevin Steen again.
He is definitely lean again, compared to when I first saw him in person. When I asked Kevin, "How do you get so big?" and he said, "Just eat everything in sight." And I'm just like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Thank you.
Kevin.
But he seems like a good enough guy that he will have no problem answering the demand to get leaner, and he has the performance center at his disposal.
When I had asked for a devil sign Steen shirt, he said, "Oh, I don't have that big of size for you, or your size." And I was like, "Well, what's the biggest size you have?" He's like, double XL, and I'm like, no, I guess not. And then that's when I asked him, "How do you get so big?" And he just said, "Eat everything in sight." And back to the match. I love the match for what would have been my second exposure to Nigel, and he was probably one of those guys that I think people are upset that things happened to him. And it really, I mean, these two matches show why people are just like, man, I just wish that wouldn't have happened. And I understand. I definitely do understand the hype of Nigel McGuinness. If I were Nigel McGuinness, would I have made a different path instead of going to Space Junk? Yes. I personally...
He did work in Japan for a while. He was in Noah for a while.
Okay. I mean, my thing is that I just don't think going to TNA helps you at all unless you're getting built around.
Well, he was about to, because the first feud they put him in TNA was against Kurt Angle.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was his first feud. So, and crazy enough, the person that brought him to TNA was Vince Russo.
Yeah.
And
That's a swerve.
And Vince Russo was the one that put him in the feud with Kurt Angle. So TNA definitely realized what they had with him, but unfortunately some things happened in Nigel's life to where it was not meant to be in the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I understand why Joe went. I mean, they were like literally building a company around him. I understand why Christian went when he was done. because they built the company around him. And
With Nigel, it was probably going to happen that way as well.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I'd say some of those Team Christian moments were absolutely fun. Like Christian's run in TNA was actually pretty fun. I think both of them. I think up until the end when it kind of got a little weird, but there was some fantastic fun moments with him and Angle over there, the Angle Alliance. But yeah, this match was balls to the wall, insane, and it's funny. It's no wonder that the talent brought Bryan Danielson to the WWE eventually from this point, but it is a wonder looking at this that he survived to that point because he is.
This match was a war. This was a war.
Yeah,
it's a war when
he
they have
headbutted himself into bleeding, like
Oh, the headbutts. Oh God.
Oh God, the headbutts, and having Bryan Danielson standing triumphant with his face covered in blood, like was
who's the best in the world?
You are.
Who's the best in the world?
And the crowd was screaming, "You are."
Oh.
I think that's pretty much
Bryan Danielson, people. Bryan Danielson.
I think
I've been
that's
saying it for years.
Yeah, I think that's basically.
And Petey, Rick, hearing the final countdown and seeing the final countdown entrance again
Brings you back.
The nostalgia.
So many feels. So many feels.
Who knows? Maybe it'll happen again.
No. It's not. No. But that's okay. That's okay. I have my memories.
Yes.
I mean, overall, I really did enjoy this event. For ROH, I've had, like I said in the beginning, I've had problems with ROH before. This is definitely if you're trying to rub bad memories off on somebody, or just introducing them to ROH, this is definitely something to check out.
Mission accomplished.
Hands down,
Yeah.
mission accomplished.
Nailed it.
Dude, can we have like a stamp, like a mission accomplished? Do we need to fly you out on a carrier and have a mission accomplished banner behind
And
you?
it's one of those things where now people see why I love Daniel Bryan so much.
Yeah.
Now you understand.
It's kind of like me and Melissa McCarthy. You finally all see what I've seen for a decade now, with
for
the
Gilmore.
talent.
Okay.
You all can see what I've known for a decade. You all figured out now, and just like with Daniel Bryan, what you've known for I guess a decade at this point.
Wow.
Everybody has found out now, and I think that we know Rick Foster's overall thoughts, and I would say I'd echo that. I mean, this is all stuff that people that I knew in earlier situations and slightly younger and slimmer and with less hair or more hair, depending on who it was. But I think more of what I loved about them and what I already knew about them. I didn't need convincing that all these people are awesome and that ROH is awesome, but I got reconditioned into remembering how awesome ROH was, or at least knowing how awesome ROH was when I didn't get to tune in yet. And it's just amazing stuff. And
you can get this all for $9.99.
No.
You can get the DVD.
Not the DVD, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah,
ROHWrestling.com.
Go look it up. See if you can buy it. So just at least just PayPal them like $20 and see if they'll give you something.
Yeah, PayPal $20 and with the subject, give it to me. And don't
Just
put in driven or anything. Just give it to me.
Anything from like 2004 to 2007, you're pretty much good.
Yeah, pretty much. I think that we have our conclusive thoughts on everything. Go check out ROH Driven. And yeah, Rick, what do you have going on in the world of the internet? Where can people follow you?
Well, you can I'm working on getting a web zone set up. Eventually, it will be set up. But for now, if you like just my commentary on sports, wrestling in general, usually sometimes I'll live tweet Raw or live tweet whatever like a sporting event goes on. One time I live tweeted curling at 3 a.m. in the morning, Mountain Time,
Nice.
and you can follow that at Foster on Sports. Just for regular stuff, at Rick Foster. I do tweet sporty stuff on my regular account, Rick Foster, but I really do try and separate it, just because I know there's people that don't like live tweeting, especially live tweeting sports. So I try and split it up. But if you do, follow both.
And DJM, what do you have going on in your world?
Well, if you like seeing me live tweet episodes of Garfunkel and Oates, you can follow me on Twitter at JustCalledMeDJM. And since I've been called out by the hosts of FSL Tonight, Tom Merritt and Justin Robert Young, I will officially announce that the formation of the International Anime League is underway.
Unbelievable.
Stay tuned.
And we
The
will have
International Anime League is coming your way, and yes, I do have a co-host, but I'm not telling you. You'll just have to stay tuned to DeltaJulietMike.com.
Ooh.
And
And
of
I
course
will
you can
say
follow me at
Garfunkel and Oates is really good too. So do follow him for live tweeting.
And of course, you can follow me at PD Rave. I haven't been saying it lately, and it's been out of habit, but out of my habit. But PD's and Williams, Raves and Jimmy, all in one word. It feels good to say that again. You can follow the show at Fanny Pack WP. You can follow all of my other podcasts at Relly.net. I might even do my own FSL related stuff. Might post my as many listeners of Dragon Sports Talk Radio know, I'm the host of the Rogues Gallery, which handles a lot of the free agency and minor league stuff.
Petey, yes, I wanted to say that the International Anime League show, which I'm not going to tell you the name of yet, has been picked up for a Saturday night at 3 a.m. slot on Dragon Sports Talk Radio.
No, congratulations,
Nice.
man! Holy
Woo!
smokes,
Nice.
that's a hard slot to get.
We made it to the big time, baby. We're in the big leagues, brother.
And I know you got almost as good a slot as the Quidditch Quorum, a very popular show on there. But I think you're right up on there. Really good shows. There's always some.
You know what? We'll take it. We'll take it. Me and my co-host, we're super excited, and the International Anime League is gonna be a thing.
Yes. And that's it. Hopefully everybody enjoyed our live little video here. I think nobody watched it, but hey, you can watch the recording, and it's nice there to have it there on YouTube. We're going to go ahead and post it on Monday, the audio version, put it on a nice little post on Rebelli.net, and everything's, and I think this is going to be the habit from now on. We're going to do every other Saturday live, and then every other Monday I post the episode all finished up and edited, audio edited, and whatnot. So that's going to be, now we're going to actually have some, construct and rhythm and pace and actual, conciseness, consistency.
Hell yeah!
So we'll look forward to that. So a week from Saturday, look forward to another episode of Fanny Pack Wrestling. But that's it for us. For my friends here, until next time, hasta los huevos.
Burritos, nachos, everybody. Didn't I tell you Bryan Danielson was awesome? I told you.
Yes. You sure did.
Fighting.
This is so good. So good.